Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Of course, I'm not alone. Good morning, Stella.
Good morning, and it's always a delight to be here. My name is Stella Iyaji. Thanks for joining us.
Well, the show is fully packed. Today being the 21st of June, Tuesday, 2022, quite a number of issues really. It's the season of politics and quite a lot of conversations. Thousands of Nigerians are trooping out en masse to various centers of registration of PVCs to get their PVCs ahead of the 2023 general elections. Yes. It looks unprecedented this time around.
And it appears the rush to get the cards came shortly after the emergence of the candidates of especially the two major political parties.
Some have expressed optimism over the newly signed electoral law as what they feel, it's the push behind them, being motivated to
go
come out.
But again, we have registered voter party in some elections that took place not too long ago. So I hope that as they pick up as they register, they actually go out to vote.
True.
Yeah.
All right, now let's take a look at the headlines for today. Federal government directs discourse to resume meter assets providers program.
Placeholder has no place in our constitution. This is coming from INEC.
Kaduna train attack. Some victims have been bitten by snakes, says negotiator.
Now the news and details. Tukur Mamu, Kaduna-based publisher who negotiated the release of 11 of the passengers who were abducted from a train in March, says some of the victims have been bitten by snakes. He disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Kaduna on Monday. According to Mamu, there are many snakes in the forest where the captives are being held, adding that snakes usually appear at night. He explained further that lack of diagnosis and treatment, coupled with poor nutrition, poor sanitary conditions, make them vulnerable. Mamu assured the family of the victims that they were neither beaten nor molested, just that the condition of the place they are being kept is not favorable.
Well, the concept of placeholder for vice presidential candidate has no place in the constitution of the National Electoral Commission. This is according to INEC's Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye. INEC had set June 17 as the deadline for the nomination of vice presidential candidates following the completion of presidential primaries of political parties. In order to beat the deadline, some parties submitted names of vice presidential candidates whom they described as placeholders. Reacting in a chat on Arise TV on Monday, Okoye said that the placeholder is a unique Nigerian invention for which the Commission's law has no provision.
Now the federal government has given instructions to the electricity distribution companies to resume the meter assets providers program recently slowed down by the National Mass Metering Program. According to the chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Mr. Garba Sanusi, the first one of the federal government's NMMP, which has been built to commence in August, speed up the MAP project and the issue of estimated billing faced by electricity consumers, as well as increase electricity supply across the country. Although the DISCO's mass metering program has been in existence for some years, the program under the office of Vice President Yemi Oshibajo was introduced in 2020 to bridge the wide metering gap in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. While the MAP had barely reached 400,000 homes in 2022, federal government's NMMP intervention in phase 1 succeeded in reaching over 800,000.
All right, that's the highlights. Now let's take a look at some more packages. Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, is not admitting that names of some persons have been smuggled into the party's list of candidates submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission. The APC national chairman was not forthcoming with answers when he led a delegation to President Buhari to present Governor-elect of Ekiti State, Abiodun Abayomi Oyebanji, to President Muhammadu Buhari on Monday at the State House. Kehinde Amodu has this packaged.
President Buhari keenly followed Saturday's polls in Ekiti State and is delighted with the orderly conduct of the elections. He's also impressed with how the electorate and security agencies comported themselves. This is the first electoral victory of the party under the leadership of Senator Abdullahi Adamu. He is pledging that the victory will be replicated in Osun State next month. On the other hand, the governor-elect believes that the elections demonstrated that the APC is still the party of choice. The clear victory, he stressed, is a positive signal to the elections in Osun State and the national polls next year.
The last time I was here, I said that if performance will be an indicator for electoral success, that we have nothing to fear. So as far as we are concerned in APC, we did not involve in vote buying, but we've done so well, and we have a manifesto that pleases our people.
Beyond the celebrations, however, are allegations of the name of Senate President Ahmad Lawan appearing on the list of APC candidates sent to INEC, despite not participating in party primaries. It is a query the national chairman is not positively inclined to.
Everything we've done so far, we've done very carefully with legal consultation, and we're cocksure. We are not going to have the kind of speculation that you are, professing at this point in time. We are very comfortable with what we've done. You see, it's still pessimism.
Senator Adamu's elusive response to questions about names being smuggled into the candidates list of the APC may mean something is amiss, but all will be revealed in the weeks to come. From State House, Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
Thank you, Kehinde Amodu, for that report. There's going to be a lot on the postmortem, when doing a postmortem of the Ekiti elections, don't you think?
True. A lot of civil society organizations and other observers that went to Ekiti State, actually confirmed that there was high monetization of the whole process.
There were actually some videos also to show that went viral on social media.
And that's not exclusive to any political party.
At all.
From what we've heard, virtually all the candidates, at least the major candidates in that election, were all, buying votes.
In fact, even journalists on ground reported that it appeared as if there was a competition in the vote buying.
So it was more
like a case of one. It wasn't a case of one particular person was buying all the votes.
And it's quite sad, given the fact that this is the first election leading to the 2023 general elections with the new electoral law.
I hope it's not a sign of what is to come in the general elections.
There's a whole lot of responsibility on Nigerians to actually know that at the end of the day, it's not worth it.
Exactly.
10,000 naira.
I saw this particular video of a boy who said that, a young man, he said that he collected 5,000 and voted for a particular party because he was asked to vote for that party. And I was thinking, Nigerians, bulk of this responsibility is on the electorate, it's on the voters at the end of the day. Why collect 5,000 and then just sell the next 4 years?
Well, now, I hope that they hear us.
I hope so too.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah. Away from that report now. Now, a crowd of youths on Monday thronged Old Parade Ground in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, to take advantage of concert window tagged Youths Votes Count to obtain their permanent voter card ahead of the 2023 general elections. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports that a cross-section of the prospective voters say they are inspired by the ongoing electoral reforms to make their votes count during the elections. Let's take the report now.
Behind me, as you can see, it's a very massive crowd, of prospective voters who are here to obtain their permanent voters card, taking advantage of the window provided by this concert to obtain their permanent voters card, which is a precursor, to allowing them to exercise their franchise during the 2023 general election. Massive crowd, of Nigerians, most of them youths, and of course, as it is, Nigerians synonymous with this attitude of last-minute rush, to obtain something that is very critical and crucial to their lives. We'll get to hear from some of them why it has taken them this long to obtain their PBCs.
We were told to come here, and we were here since morning. They locked the gates against us and kept us here under the sun. Nobody is telling us anything. What is the challenge? We don't know. We have just been here.
But why did it take you all this long to obtain a PBC? The continuous voter registration exercise has been there for months. What happened?
Because we now have improved electoral system. We now believe that our vote will count.
It doesn't have to be hard. In our own country, I'm not in a foreign land. And then it's difficult for me to get my PVC. In my own country, for crying out loud. In our own country. Open this thing. It's intentional. I met a lady here now. She said she has been going to INEC offices. This is not an INEC office. She has been going to INEC offices. And for 3 weeks now, and they've been sending her back. Our employer says she's not going to get paid. She does not. So she has no excuse than to get it. Now she has been to INEC office, they did not give her. Now she had to come to this initiative, yet there's overcrowding.
Behind me, as you can see, are some of the biometrics capturing units for the permanent voters card here at the old parade ground. A number of machines are at work here, capturing as many as possible those prospective, electorates who wants to get their PBCs. But what we are seeing here is a far cry compared to what is, outside the walls of the old parade ground in terms of the number of people who are coming here, to obtain their PBCs. The concern is that the machines are grossly inadequate, and of course the timeline is also very short. The prospective, voters have been calling on Nigerian government and authorities concerned to extend the deadline so that they can allow them opportunity to get their PBCs, which is very necessary for them to exercise their franchise. From the old parade ground here in Abuja, Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News.
Well, there you have it. Quite an interesting scene there. And also it came to some people at a cost.
Yeah.
It wasn't an easy thing. I was there personally yesterday, and I saw the thousands of young people that came out to register, and it sends a lot of message.
Yeah, it does.
That people are more awake now. They are more aware of their responsibility to participate in the whole process in our elections and all of that, which goes back to what we started off saying earlier, that that massive turnout is good for our democracy. Yeah. However, there are concerns anyways with the challenges and of the processes.
Yes, there are concerns, and a lot of people have expressed, have asked that why did all of these people have to wait to this point to go out and get these cards. However, that is the situation where we have found ourselves, and I would expect INEC to look for a way around this so that everybody that indeed wants to get registered gets registered.
Yes, and Stella, I actually think that, yes, in addition to the last-minute rush, yes, we know Nigerians usually will come out for such things at the last minute, but it appears that this time around, certain things changed after the party primaries.
Exactly.
There's this massive
the interest, the excitement, everything.
Yes, there's this massive campaign even on social media for people to go out, and get their PVCs. I've seen consultants in medical facilities, urging people to come for free medical consultations as long as they have
their PVCs. Wow. That's
I've seen such videos, and I've seen priests, in churches and places, asking people to turn back.
There was this priest in Pangshin last Sunday that actually told parishioners to stay outside and said that only those with the PVCs should enter the church. Yes, so, even though the diocese later said, no, that's not the way to go, but that was what he did.
Yeah, so it appears that the advocacy for people to get PVCs is beyond civil society organizations now. Even individuals are taking this personally, which is good.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to the issue of, INEC, coming up with strategies that can actually help. Because from the stories that we heard from that old parade ground yesterday, there were incidences of theft where people's phones were, snatched or picked.
Some people could even have sustained injuries with all of that.
Yes, even stories of injuries. I saw a video of one person that collapsed even in that place. And, you just cannot really tell. You do not want the kind of stampede that happened some time ago when people were
during that was during an interview for immigration some years ago.
Yes, immigration recruitment. You do not want that to happen. So to better manage the crowd, I think that there should be some kind of strategy that will help with the crowd control.
You know, one of the persons that I spoke to, the Trust TV reporter, she said only one center in the whole of Amak. That will not help the situation. There's a need for INEC to look at that and see how more centers can be created just to accommodate the
So
people.
I'm saying that the reason for the central point for the registration, there's this concert that was organized just like in Lagos and all of that. Maybe that's why they have
that was why that happened.
in one spot and all of that. But whichever ways, it's important to at least be able to control the thousands of people that came out.
Yeah, and also in the midst of all of this, INEC is also complaining that so many people have registered and have refused to come back and pick up the cards. So it's also important that when they register, they should go and pick up these cards.
That also raised another issue because among all the people that came out, and not everyone is there for PVC, like a fresh PVC or a new PVC. Some have done it before, probably lost it. Some want to just change the location where they will cast their votes. So they already have a PVC. There are some that are there for complaints of maybe name or the age or something like that, because the PVC serves not just for election but even for other reasons. So I'm guessing that's why we have all that turnout. So it goes to say that there is need to actually segment the crowd, so that it's easier to identify
those who are
who is doing PVC for the first time, who is just here to collect, and all of that. It will help, deal with the whole.
And then there are also complaints that sometimes when people go to the points to collect these cards, nobody is there to attend to them. So maybe something INEC should look into.
The focus is mostly on people doing
the registration, and then after that, the follow-up is not properly followed up. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to see how, there's also a court order, let's not forget, for INEC to
extend,
to stop INEC from ending the registration exercise by 30th of June.
Yes, but as at yesterday, INEC had not responded to that. It hadn't said anything. But I want to believe that INEC would maybe respond to the situation as it unfolds.
Yeah, well, we'll get to see all of that as well as we progress. Now, let's take a look at another story here. Ahead of the 2022 International Day Against Drug Abuse, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency says a total of 17,647 drug offenders and 10 barons have been arrested in the last 17 months. Also, within the same period, the agency says over 2,369 convicts were jailed and more than 11,000 drug users counseled and treated. Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of NDLEA, Buba Marwa, said that he said this in Abuja during a media briefing to inaugurate the week-long activities to mark this year's World Drug Day. Trust TV's Aisha Salihu has this packaged.
In strengthening action and cooperation to achieve a world free of drug abuse and illicit trafficking, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency is ensuring a paradigm shift that encompasses a balanced approach to address the problem in the country by getting help to drug users suffering in silence without access to help due to stigmatization.
This is one of the purposes of the Recording Center, to tackle those who don't want to be seen and to render service. We're going to have counselors, psychotherapists, psychologists, psychiatrists 24/7 that will respond quickly on a toll-free basis when you call to give assistance. We also will use the facility to collect information.
As all sides continue to work towards combating the drug abuse and illicit trafficking menace in Nigeria, the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime says about $40 million has been expended in 10 years of United Nations and Nigeria's collaboration to address drug challenges.
5.5% globally In Nigeria, it's 14.4%. It's almost 3 times as high as what the global average is.
Okay, that's right.
And that, I think, gives you already a pretty good idea of how serious the situation is that we're facing in Nigeria in particular.
The NDLEA also noted that health concerns around drug abuse have been incorporated into the National Drug Control Master Plan 2021-2025, which it noted is similar to this year's theme of addressing drug challenges in health and humanitarian crisis. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
All right, thank you, Aisha Salihu, for that report. We cannot emphasize the danger of drug abuse enough. Away from that now, let's take another report. Now, newspaper vending is an old business which has been a source of living for many around the globe and in Nigeria. However, the technological advancement of the 21st century has adversely affected the business, losing customers to online platforms. Ibrahim Ismail takes a look at the struggles some newspaper vendors go through to remain in business despite all odds.
60-year-old Balamai Jarida has been a newspaper vendor since 1980. When he was a teenager, his dream was to become a journalist. Even though his dream was not realized, Bala found solace in newspaper vending. When I was a kid in primary school, they used to ask us in class about what we want to become in the future. Some will choose farming, but I said I want to be a journalist. They called me Balamai Jarida. Since then, I became a vendor. He said despite the threat to the newspaper vending by the digital technology, he still makes fortune in the business. The business has some setbacks. In Gombe, I used to receive 500 copies of Daily Trust newspaper daily. I distribute to vendors and agents in Bilin, Kaltungo, Kumo, and Nashaka. But due to the mobile technology, sales have dropped. The companies also cut the supply. Now I only receive 30, 35 to 40 copies.
Yanzu duka abin da nake samu baya wuce kwafi 30, 35, 40. Alhamdulillah.
Thanks to Allah, I achieve a lot and I still make fortunes. I fend for myself, married second and third wife, bought farm and piece of land. I am still in the business.
Aure na farko amma na gida la da noma amma na yi na ɗaya da na biyu duk a cikin jarida. Na sayi gona kuma na sayi fili har yanzu duk a cikin jarida. Ko da yace ban gina filin ba.
Although technology poses a threat, but we still make progress. Even with the drop in revenue generation in newspaper vending, Balamai Jarida is very optimistic the job will continue to put food on the table. He believes that newspapers have more merits than online publications, calling on stakeholders to save their businesses from extinction. From Gombe, Ibrahim Ismail reporting for Trust TV.
Indeed, changing times for the print media industry, not just in Nigeria, but the world over. And on this note, we have the newspaper reviewer for the day, our guest reviewer on the dailies on Daybreak, Hajia Zainab Okinu, chairperson, editorial board, Blueprint newspaper. She joins us to talk about the stories on the front pages of our newspapers this morning. But before we go into the newspaper review proper, I would like for you to, well, let me welcome you to Daybreak.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah. And now, I would like for you to, say a word or two regarding this decline and the changing dynamics of the print media industry today.
Well, technology is a disruptor in a way. Every time there's a new technology in a particular industry, it takes away some jobs and also gives some jobs. I think that's what is happening in the media industry, because it's not just the vendors that are in trouble, even conventional media houses are in trouble. All of us know that the sales of newspapers have dropped, and patronage has also dropped, so it's affecting the vendors. It just makes sense that if there's less production or less printing of newspapers, and less patronage, then the vendors will naturally be affected negatively. The only unfortunate thing is that for them it's a major loss of job. Well, you and I can still remain in this job one way or the other, but they have over the years dependent on hard copy sales. So I don't know what they can do now to change the system they are already used to, so that they don't go out of business or employment, kind of. So, but it's a hard time for everyone. All of us in the industry, not just the vendors.
All right. Well, that being said,
I was just looking at that man. He says he's been in the business for a very long time.
Very long.
And there are some people that have been in that business for about 40 to 50 years. And I'm thinking, what are they going to do now? Because yes, there's technology and all of that, but is there a place for them in new media?
Yeah, and the thing is that if you look at, it's a whole chain. And he, at a point from his account, he was a major distributor.
Yeah.
Given an example with the Daily Trust newspaper, for instance, from 500 to less than 100, less than a 50, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's a huge, drop, in the number of copies that he will usually get. So it has changed a lot. The business, of course, the business of information remains, but maybe the mode or the method of doing it has changed.
Yeah.
And so people like him, I really do not know how they can actually key into the digital media business. Really, it's a very difficult time.
It's a difficult time for them.
All right, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that. But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Times have passed, and with it so many things that once were our visual delights. Technological advancement has brought about tremendous changes in the way and manner media deliver content to its audience.
As it continues to reposition itself to serve you much better, Media Trust Limited is rebranding its logo and visual identity to reflect our current vision and futuristic drive.
We have spread our tentacles beyond the pages of the newspaper to the digital space. The new logos and visual identities reflect the new scope of our multimedia reach.
Even with this development, however, we will continue to remain with you as we have always remained, committed to our founding philosophy, which is based on trust, integrity, openness, and courage.
The new logo, which is a marriage of a revolving globe and a mobile device, signifies the unlimited reach of our content on the digital space.
We are always the backbone of operations as we do our best to deliver content that suits your needs.
When you see a new trust title or platform in the next few days, therefore, do not be alarmed.
We remain committed to you and will continue to serve you through fair and responsible journalism.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying with us. And if you're just joining, you're watching Daybreak. This is the time we take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We take a look at the Daily Trust first. The lead story says, lull in ministries as Buhari yet to replace Amechi, Onu, others. The writer says, after defeat at primaries, ex-ministers lobby to return. Rivers, Ondo, Imo, 3 others not represented in cabinet. President unreasonably slow. That's according to Dawn's. And then presidency mom. Above the lead story, you'd see Mars Exodus looms as Orubebe, Afebwa, dump PDP. Bandits attack intending pilgrims in Sokoto. And then the pictorial shows you the ministers that resigned to vie for political offices. Rotimi Amechi, Godswill Akpabio, Opunaya Onu, Tayo Alausadura, Uche Oga, and Chukwuemeka Nwajuba there. And then below that, you'd find passengers groan over skeletal operation of Kaduna Airport. Stories at the very bottom of the paper. Train attack, some captives beaten by snakes, negotiator says. Conduct NFF elections, Buhari orders Pinnick. Shelve secession agitations, Yoruba Council tells Igboho Kanu. So these are the stories on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper.
Okay. All right, now let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. The Leadership newspaper has a lead story that says, 85 days after Kaduna train attack, 50 remaining hostages threatened by snakes, scorpions, 9 feared dead. Then there's a rider that says, we're working on rescuing them. This is coming from the federal government. Victims' families lament neglect, warns against train resumption. Attackers of Kaduna churches demand 100 million ransom. Cut off female victims' ear. And then we also have another story here that says, Abdusalami hospitalized in London, discharged. Court stops INEC from closing voter registration. We also have an update on the recently conducted Ekiti elections, where the Ekiti governor-elect denies involvement in vote buying. At the top here, we have a story that says, worst energy crisis looms over global supply shortfall. And there's a rider there that says, queues return as Ipman shuts station. Right above the masthead, there's a story that Adamo evasive over Lawan Akpabio's senatorial tickets. And then on the right-hand side, there's the story there. 7 years after opposing PMB's election, Orubebe joins APC. Those are the major stories on the Leadership for today.
All right, let's take a look at the Nation newspaper. The Nation has stories. The lead story in particular said, petrol marketers increase pump price amid scarcity. You have motorists queue for products in Lagos, Ado Ekiti, Abuja, and others. Then at the top, above the masthead, 50 Kaduna train captives sick, dying. Negotiator worried. You also have attack on churches. Bandits seek 100 million naira ransom. Lawan contested senatorial primary, says APC chair. Inducement. Oyetola seeks probe of Adeleke. All right, so I'm curious about the Lawan contesting senatorial primary election. I'm wondering how.
This is the first time I'm hearing that, actually.
Exactly.
That anybody is saying he contested the senatorial primary.
Exactly, and I'm wondering, is it now possible with the laws to contest 2 different seats in a primary election under a political party? Well, we'll get to know all of that. Now, before we take a look at more papers, let's get perspectives on some of these stories. We told you earlier that we have our guest reviewer, Zainab Okinu, who is the chairperson, editorial board of the Blueprint newspaper. Thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I mean, some of the stories that we are seeing this morning, the one about Lawan contesting primary, let's start with that. How does that come to you? Like, is there something we do not know?
Oh, or are we not in Nigeria? Or do they have their own Nigeria? We all saw how he went to contest for the presidential election and lost. While he was doing that, the other guy was contesting for the governorship in
Senate
in the state. So how come he was now part of that contest? But I think what the APC is just trying to show you that we might all be members of this party, but some people are more important than others. As they say, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
But that will run foul of the law, isn't it?
Well, I'm waiting to see how it will pan out because the other guy did not. What's his name?
Machina.
He has not given up. And he said he never ceded that position. And this thing is not done by words of mouth. It has to be written down that I've given up this position to so person. So in their own case, the guy has not given up. He's still very much in the race. So I think that in the end, going to make things easy for him. Because if they allow Lawan to contest, he might just waste his money. He will contest and the other guy will take over the seat in the
But aside from the fact that he's saying he has not ceded that ticket, but should he even be considering it? Because they keep saying that there's no morality in politics, but I'm thinking, if you have come to a primaries, you must have said something to the people that voted for you. Can you alone, because those people that voted for you to get the ticket of their party, maybe they heard something from you, they may have seen something in you, they may have believed in you. Is it okay for you now to independently, alone, now cede that ticket that came to you through the trust of a certain group of people? Can you alone just decide to say, no, I'm ceding it?
You know, the Nigerian political system is toxic, if I may use that word. And governors, over time, they have grip on the parties. And they do this. They go to contest. You know, it has just happened now because the governor of Bauchi State did the same thing. But while the governors are so powerful and they can easily put their stooge there to sit in for them temporarily, unfortunately, the case of Senate President is a bit...
It's a bit different.
It's different. It's different, and it didn't work the way he wanted it to work. And I want to believe that, excuse me, there are forces. There are unseen forces that are not in the media. Otherwise, for the number 3 citizen to want a position from someone you can say is a nobody, and I'm sorry to use that word, in the party, there must be some forces
but he has
that are a bit stronger.
Yes.
He has argued that in fact, legislatively speaking, in terms of experience, he's even more experienced than the Senate President himself. He said he was, you know, in the National Assembly before the Senate President, back in 1990.
Well, that would be open to contest.
I don't think that's right on the part of Machina, because the Senate President, Ahmed Lawal, has been in the National Assembly since the beginning of this
1999, actually.
1999. So
but he was there in 1992.
Yes. For how long?
Well, he was there
1992
earlier.
in the House of Representatives.
No, he was there earlier. He was there before Lawal, but not that he has more experience. Because Lawal has been a principal officer for as long as I can remember in the Senate, even before he became the Senate President. I remember he contested in 2015 against Saraki.
Anyway, that's beside the point. Anyways.
Yes, so
what is important is, you know, how would this have an implication on the APC, particularly in Yobe State regarding that seat? Could it amount to, you know, APC losing the entire senatorial district?
No, it's not that. Well, I do not know the law, the details of the law involved, but I don't think the APC will lose the state. What may happen is Lawa will contest the election, he will win because of his clout and the position he holds in government. He will win.
But he didn't contest in the primaries.
But the law, no, he can still contest. Although it is up to INEC to, at the end of the day, include his name. But the parties themselves are the ones that choose their representatives. So, INEC, you know, the point I was trying to make before you came in, he will contest, he will win. But whether the law because the other guy, Mr. Machina, will go to court. So the legal firework will begin after he has won, and the bank will eventually collect it from him.
I actually saw INEC in its defending itself yesterday, saying that the parties, it's the duty of the parties to submit the name of the candidates to them,
Yes.
that they don't have a role to play in that.
I agree with them.
Yes, but I was thinking, considering that they are supposed to be, the law says that they should be present at every primary.
That is what that's what we are going to hear in the courts. Because when the legal issue starts, Machina is going to call an INEC as a witness. And INEC will say, we didn't witness Lawa's presence there. It was Machina. And it's going to be so easy for Machina to collect it if Lawa insists on being the candidate of the party.
And in any
at the
case,
Senate level.
INEC has, said through the National Commissioner for Voter Information and Education that they have not even seen the list of, the nominees, from the political party. That's what we heard from Festus Okoye, that they have not, even though reports are saying that INEC has received that list and that, it's there. Festus Okoye is saying that they have not seen that list where Ahmed Lawan was actually presented as the, nominee for that seat, for that senatorial district.
INEC is looking at the big picture. They are dealing with the whole country. They are not looking at the thing based on an individual, no matter how important you are in this government. So it's possible they have not seen it officially, but it's also possible that it has been submitted. So when they see it, we will expect to hear their comment. But like we observed earlier on, it's up to the political parties to present whoever they want to present. INEC's one is to conduct elections. So their roles are different.
Right.
But INEC can be a witness when the litigation starts.
All right. There's also the lead story on the Daily Trust newspaper. I would like for you to give your take on it, about the ministers that resigned to vie for political offices, and now their offices are vacant. The reports are saying that not much progress is being recorded in that regard because the offices are vacant and no one is really overseeing what's happening there. So why is it taking this long?
For what to happen?
For
a replacement.
Reappointment of some other people.
Let's ask Mr. Buhari that question now. But I know that it's not possible for ministries and parastatals not to function well. No, they can't. There are permanent secretaries.
But isn't it a limit to what the permanent secretaries can do?
Well, maybe if there are big contracts. If there are big contracts. Because if you recall, in 2015, it was taking the president long to appoint his ministers, and he was asked that question, and he said he could do very well with the perm secs.
But I do remember then also that experts said that the lack of ministers in the country at that time was affecting development, and that because according to them at that time, there was a limit at what the permanent secretaries could do.
That might be the views of those who said it, but the president felt differently. He felt comfortable with the permanent secretaries. So, of course, we all know that that delay affected so many other things afterwards. So, for now, for me, if you ask me candidly, I would say he should appoint new ministers. These people do not have to come back. But whichever one he decides to do, because he takes the final decision, let him do it as quickly as possible so that whatever is being held down because of the absence of the ministers can work.
All right, let's take a look at some more papers again. We have the Guardian newspaper as well, like we looked at earlier. It says, the lead story says, despite 4 trillion naira subsidy, empty depots trigger new charges, petrol scarcity. You also have over 21 million Nigerians fully vaccinated against COVID-19, says federal government. The pictorial there shows you the long field queues in the federal capital. no, not in the FCT, that's in Lagos, rather. And then you also have the massive turnout for the PVC registration at the old parade ground yesterday in Abuja. These are some of the stories. And then you have Wike's threat to prosecute Amechi, ploy to divert attention, says APC chief. British commissioner worries over vote buying, selling in Ekiti election, seeks probe. Bonn climate talks make slow progress ahead of COP27 in Egypt. Investors worry about banks, 814 billion naira NPLs in 2021. These are some of the stories on the front page of The Guardian.
Okay, now let's take a look at the Blueprint newspaper. It has a lead story that says presidential running mate. APC's placeholder, sign of ill preparedness. This is coming from the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar. Mind your business, resolve PDP's internal crisis. Tinubu. Dummy candidate has no place in Nigeria's constitution, INEC. And right above that, we have a story that says, May Malabuni chairs Blueprint Lectures Awards Thursday. A writer there says, Atiku Tinubu named democracy icons. Tambuwal, Wike politicians of the year. And we also have another story here. Gunmen abduct Plateau Bauchi monarch's son. We also have there's a picture here where, incidentally, is our newspaper reviewer for today, Haja Zainab Okino, presenting a copy of the blueprint to Sharif. Dr. Ali Modu Sharif, former governor of Borno State. And then we also have another story here that says forest scarcity, $450 million ticket revenue of foreign airlines trapped in Nigeria. Our tragedy, experts fault FG's ISWAP claim. We also have another story here, APC Guba Primary. Put Adamawa candidate Binani on notice, court orders Ribadu. These are the major stories on the blueprint for today.
All right. All right. Well, let's get perspectives on these stories. The lead story on the Blueprint newspaper, talks about APC's placeholder sign of ill preparedness. That's according to one of the presidential aspirants, Atiku. You have the writers that says, mind your own business, resolve PDP's internal crisis, Tinubu is saying. And then, dummy candidate has no place in Nigeria's constitution. The last writer is my interest here. Should we be alarmed? Like, are we in for another series of, political crisis, looking at this statement about, the placeholder having no place in our constitution, if you may.
I like the play on words.
Yeah.
Placeholder having no place.
It sounds alien. We've not heard that, until now. All of a sudden we are hearing placeholder. We've heard of substitution of candidates, but placeholder, like...
Well, it was really, when I first had it, I said, come again. I had never had it until APC came up with placeholder.
Or is it the media that just coined that?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, I've been in the media for at least almost 30 years. I'd never had it. Maybe people have had it. I don't think it's the coinage is from the media. I think it's from the APC legal luminaries that decided to come up with that for the obvious reason that they are having issues coming up with a vice presidential candidate. And you know the reasons.
Does that justify the statement by the candidate of the PDP that says it's a sign of ill preparedness?
This is the time now. This is political time. They have to throw jabs at each other. You want to undermine your opponents. This is one reason that they also have to undermine their opponent. They have to do it. I wouldn't say it is they are not prepared. I do not think you can say that of a government in power. So, yeah, Atiku can say it's okay. Even today they can respond, it's okay, it's part of the game. So, but whether there is a place for that in the Constitution, I wouldn't know. I didn't hear it until just last week when the deadline was approaching. And I do not also want to believe that APC will take that gamble if there was no provision for it in our laws.
I mean, APC is not even the only one doing this.
Oh, well.
I mean, the Labour Party also have the same.
Yeah, but APC started it. So, well, it's about the same time.
Yes, almost the same
so,
time. So,
I don't know, maybe, these people, they have their own meeting somewhere that we may not know. They come to the media to tell us one story and they meet at their own level. But so they must have looked at it and thought, well, actually there's a provision that we can, there's a provision that we can use to hold this thing down for the time being.
Well, a lot of people are wondering, though, that why is the selection of a running mate, why has it become so difficult? Why is it taking so long?
Because the Nigerian politics is peculiar. Because we need to balance everything, religion, region,
it's even the secrecy,
zone,
the secrecy.
Zone. So,
because but they knew that they were coming into an election. They knew that the primaries was coming, and they knew that all of these could come up.
No,
why
they wouldn't know.
All of these meetings they're having now, why didn't they have them before?
No. It's not as easy as it's not as easy as writing it. We are writers, so we can easily write and ask all these questions quite okay. But Tinubu came, he came first, and he's a Muslim. He has to balance it ordinarily, like Atiku did. Atiku is a Muslim and he's from the north. So it was easy for him to pick a Christian from the south. Tinubu is a Muslim and he's from the south. So coming to the north to pick a Christian is where the problem is.
Which then validates the point that the presidential aspirant Atiku Abubakar is making, that perhaps it's a sign of ill preparedness.
No, it doesn't validate anything. The point the APC people are trying to make, or Tinubu as the presidential candidate of the party is trying to make, is he's trying to weigh all the options. If I choose a Christian from the north.
But that decision should have come much earlier. That's what we're saying.
These are permutations that I want to believe should have been on the table.
He knew that he is going into this contest, and he knew that there's a likelihood of him winning the contest. So if he wins, he has not had thoughts about who his running mate is going to be, like all along that he's been running. He is the one that says this is a lifelong ambition.
See, all these questions shouldn't be for me. It's for Tinubu to answer, but I know where he's coming from. I don't even have to be a politician before I know where he's coming from. It's a difficulty. When you consider the population of the Muslim North as against the population of the Christian North, in a normal situation, we shouldn't be talking about all this. It should not matter whether someone is a Christian or a Muslim. But here, this is Nigeria. Politics is not about, it's not just, the way democracy is defined is not how it's defined in Nigeria. So there are other factors, variables that come into it. And those variables now that are delaying.
But while we're moving away from politics, I really want you to talk about this story on The Nation. Petrol marketers increase pump price amid scarcity. Then The Guardian goes further to say, despite 4 trillion subsidy, empty depots triggers new charges, petrol scarcity. Where are we going from here?
In terms of scarcity?
Yes, and the whole petrol problem that we have.
It's such a long story. Where do we even start from? I hope you can still recall the 2012, no, 2014 protests that trailed the subsidy removal under Jonathan. So it was a campaign issue for the APC under Buhari, and they made a huge success out of it. Then coming to the first time that this government increased the price of fuel, if you recall, nobody said anything. Nigerians were quiet because they believed in the government. But it has got to a stage now where we don't even know where we are. The subsidy, the government paid the last time the government paid subsidy money, it was in trillions of naira to marketers or whoever they are. Yet, we do not have this fuel. But the reason why I think we do not have the petrol is because of the cost of diesel. The cost of diesel is 850 naira per liter. So, and these trucks are using diesel. So they are delivering petrol, but they are using diesel. So where do they get the difference from? That's where you are seeing all this increase. Officially, government has not announced any increase, but we know it's on its way because people would rather buy at a high cost than not even see anything to buy at all. So the petroleum issue is our bane in this country. I just wish, I know it's a fossil fuel and it doesn't have a future, but we don't, in Nigeria, we don't even plan for the future, we plan for now. So I just wish we do not even have this petrol so that we can look elsewhere to get, for government to function. Because everybody is depending on it to steal money. And I'm sorry to use that word without, I do not mean the government itself, I do not mean even the leaders, but we do know that there's so much scam in this system and in this petroleum subsidy thing and so much. I don't have all the details, but I know that all is not well in that industry.
All right. Well, that being said, thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak and sharing your perspectives with us on the dailies on Daybreak. We do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Our guest reviewer has been Zainab Okinu, the chairperson, editorial board, Blueprint newspaper. And that's a wrap. On this segment, we'll take a short breather, and then when we come back at the top of the hour, the show will continue. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve their sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
All right, thank you for staying. For those who are just joining us, you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. It's top of the hour. Let's take a look at the headlines again. Federal government directs DISCOs to resume meter assets providers program.
Placeholder has no place in our constitution, says INEC.
Kaduna train attack. Some victims have been bitten by snakes, says negotiator.
Now the news in details. Tukur Mamu, Kaduna-based publisher who negotiated the release of 11 of the passengers who were abducted from a train in March, says some of the victims have been bitten by snakes. He disclosed this in an interview with newsmen in Kaduna on Monday. According to Mamu, there are many snakes in the forest where the captives have been held, adding that snakes usually appear at night. He explained further that lack of diagnosis and treatment, coupled with poor nutrition, poor sanitary conditions, make them vulnerable. Mamu assured the family of the victims that they were neither beaten nor molested, just that the condition of the place they are being kept is not favorable.
All right. Now, taking a look at the next story here, the concept of placeholder for vice presidential candidate has no place in the constitution of the Independent National Electoral Commission. This is according to INEC's Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye. INEC had set June 17 as the deadline for the nomination of vice presidential candidates following the completion of presidential primaries of political parties. In order to beat the deadline, some parties submitted names of vice presidential candidates whom they described as placeholders. Reacting in a chat with Arise TV on Monday, Okoye said that the placeholder is a unique Nigerian invention for which the Commission's law has no provision.
Now, the federal government has given instruction to the electricity distribution companies to resume the meter access providers program recently slowed down by the National Mass Metering Program. According to the chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Mr. Garba Sanusi, the phase one of the federal government's NMMP, which has been built to commence in August, will speed up the MAP project and the issue of estimated billings faced by electricity consumers, as well as increase electricity supply across the country. Although the DISCO's mass metering program has been in existence for some years, the program under the Office of Vice President Yemi Oshibajo was introduced in 2020 to bridge the wide metering gap in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. While the MAP had barely reached 400,000 homes in 2020, federal government's NMMP intervention in phase one succeeded in reaching over 800,000.
All right, that's that for the news highlights. Now let's take a look at our first discussion on the program. Internal democracy, otherwise known as shadow election, is the process of governance within a political party. It is the ability of a political party to govern itself through its internal administration, internal mechanisms, thereby enhancing greater good for itself and the country at large. The opposite of internal democracy is imposition, which creates dissension, disharmony, conflict, disagreement, dispute, intra-party conflicts, and threats to regime stability, good governance, and disorganization in a political party. Executive Director, Organization for Community and Civic Engagement, Nigeria, Abdulrazak Al-Khali joins us in the studio to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, talking about internal democracy, I want you to, give us your take on the recent happenings in Yobe, North Senatorial District, where the Senate President came from. there's this back and forth. Reports are saying that the party APC has presented Ahmed Lawan as the nominee for that senatorial district. Meanwhile, we know that Bashir Machina contested the primaries for that constituency and won that primaries. INEC was there and all of that. What's your take on that?
Yes. So before going to the Ahmed Lawan case, I think we need to look at the way our political parties are behaving in terms of their internal democracy. And they failed to really recognize there is need for them to first organize internally before they presented even their candidates to Nigerians for elected positions. And this is a quite challenging issue. Over the years, we don't have this internal democracy, or I can say it's very weak. And that's why at times the political parties have this kind of impunity, presenting candidates that have not followed the due process. That's the case of the Ahmed Lawan. We all know that Ahmed Lawan went to contest for the presidency, for presidential election, primary under APC, and somebody there participated, Machina participated in the primary election for that seat, and he was declared a winner and given certificates. And there is no way the APC or INEC, whoever, can come and accept the names of Ahmed Lawan. The provision of our Electoral Act 2022, Section 31 and Section 33, what it states, INEC shall not accept any political party candidate who does not participate in the primary election. And Ahmed Lawan have not participated in that primary election. And so there is no way that INEC can accept his name as a candidate for that Yobe North Senatorial District. It's just a matter for Machina to make sure that he stands his ground. I follow it in the news that the way he's, I really appreciate the way he's standing his ground on the issue. So he needs to continue with that. It's a matter of time. If they cannot resolve it, I was shocked when I heard that INEC accepted another name because they know the prohibition. This law is they are the one implementing the law. And they should not allow this kind of things to happen. This is just a new law that we are all happy. We have Electoral Act that is more inclusive, and if followed, it's going to support the country to have credible election.
Okay. I want to bring in the Akwa Ibom issue so that you take them side by side.
Yes.
Now, in Akwa Ibom State also, we have the case of Akpabio's name. The APC in Akwa Ibom State is saying is Godswill Akpabio. That is their candidate. Godswill Akpabio was said, it was said that he did not take part in the first primaries. In fact, in the primaries that was conducted in the state, where DIG Ekpudom emerged as the candidate of the APC. Now, a few days after the primaries was conducted, the chairman of the APC in that state called for another primary, saying that the national APC had asked them to conduct another one, citing security infractions during the first one. And they conducted another one, where they said Akpabio emerged as a candidate. In that second one, DIG Ekpudom did not take part. Now, the APC in the state has said that their candidate is Akpabio. And DIG Ekpudom is still insisting that he's the candidate of the party. And the INEC in the state said they did not take part. They were not witnesses to the second primaries.
Yes, so the first candidate is the winner. Because for each primary election...
But don't also forget that the APC in the state is insisting also that INEC was a witness in that second primary. So
the APC in the state, they can dubiously do some wrong things. Maybe they want to favor a particular candidate. But the law is there, it's very clear. Whoever does not participate in the primary election, he cannot be presented to the INEC. And for example, the INEC said they are not going to participate in the second primary election.
They said they were not there.
They were not there. So I think the guy that win the first election, he has a serious case. So, but the candidates, they need to do a lot for themselves. They can seek for court redress in case where the party is vehemently behind the other candidate who does not participate in the primary election, just like the way the national headquarters of APC is trying to support Ahmed Lawan case. The same thing with Akpabio. The other candidate must take their case to the party to have the discussions to make sure that this is their right. And if the party is not willing to support them, then they can take it to court.
You know, when we talk about imposition of candidates, there are enablers here. Mostly, you find that the governors are very, powerful and influential on political parties at the state level and even at the national level. And also, you have the people that the governors are working with. It appears that there is so much, financial inducements that happened, from top to bottom. So are we ever going to see a time where votes actually count and people have a say in what happens, even within political parties, with the kind of influence that, certain individuals usually will have?
Well, this is quite challenging for Nigerian democracy, money inducement and bribery. And we find it difficult to deal with it because the governors, they have the grab of the power at the center, and also they do influence national structure of their political party. And that if you are not loyal to your state governor, you will find it difficult to survive politically in your political party. And at the same time, the issue of vote buying and financial inducement is everywhere within our political context. Let's take example of the recent Ekiti election. We have commended so many processes, implemented by INEC in terms of providing the timely materials of the election, the participation, the issue of voter apathy. We have started seeing some improvement in terms of the people's coming out for the election. In terms of organization of the security apparatus, it's also well commended. But when it comes to that issue of financial inducement, it's there.
And some people have said that there's bullying in the parties, whereby some people have said that it appears as if there are some members of the party that are considered more important or bigger than others. Like in the case of Lawan and Akpabio. Lawan is more popular than Machina. Akpabio is more popular than D.I.J. Kudong. And should that be happening, where shouldn't every member of the party be seen to be equal, and so that the party does not favor one person against the other?
Well, it's true. Some candidates are more popular than others, and as a result of that, they have some political power. For example, Ahmed Lawan is the third person when you rank, the national leadership of the party. Not only the party in the country, he's the Senate president, but that does not guarantee him to have any favor against other candidates. This is an issue of the political parties. For quite long, we don't have good internal democracy that respects the rights of each and every member, that treats members equally. And that's why we have been having this problem over the years. It is high time now we have to accommodate all internal democracy principles in the country, but our political parties are still not really willing or ready to do that.
All right, so when we talk about this, when we talk about internal democracy, it's important that, party supremacy is upheld. It's important that political parties are above every other individual that is, in that party. But what we see is that we see individuals who seem to be bigger than political parties, right? So how can we make political parties stronger in a way that they can actually get to decide what happens, without the influence of one individual or, certain individuals, such that the party actually becomes supreme?
Well,
because, why I'm saying this, we've seen cases where in the state, for instance, at the subnational level, you have a state chairman, but there is someone that is considered party leader, in the state and across board, even nationally. For instance, even the president is considered a leader of the APC, where every decision is taken through him. We've seen all the decisions about, who is the anointed one of the president, who is not, all that kind of conversations. And that's even at the subnational level as well. So how can we make political parties stronger such that they can actually be supreme and be above individuals?
I think there we have to learn from the olden democracies that have spent 100+ years conducting democracy. Our political parties in Nigeria, they don't have ideologies. That's why we have seen the level of cross-carpeting from one party to another. So one thing that we have to start doing is to build political parties that have ideologies, that are built based on principles, so that people can subscribe to parties that appeal to their own conscience and their interest. And from there, then also people have to start donating to their political parties, not allow tiny minority interests to contribute financially to the development of their party. Because if we continue to allow that, those people will continue to influence and to dominate the decision making. That's why the governors are so powerful, because they are the ones that are funding our political parties. Even at national, the way we have seen the APC, how they handle the issue of their primary election. The governors decide everything because they have that financial power. They influence everything. They influence who the candidates in their state, and they also influence the
So when you say that, is it possible for political parties to actually sustain themselves from financial contributions from members, and whether or not we actually have Nigerians who go into political parties with the mindset that they are going in to make contributions, to build something, to add to something, not to take? Because it appears that what we have now, more people, affiliate, themselves to political parties basically with the mindset of, let me take, not let me go and give. So how do we, change that? Where does it start from?
Well, there is nothing wrong of getting contribution. That's the way to go, good way to go. People contribute to the development of the party. At times, even private interests who are engaged in some business, they can associate themselves with political parties that are maybe tilted towards their main objectives. They can support them. And the way they can do it, they have to do it with transparency, level of transparency, and not with intention of getting
rewarded.
Yes. So these are the kind of strategy we have to adopt if at all our political parties have to survive this kind of development that is very transparent and it's not a one-man show or a few people show.
Because, I've seen that one of the reasons why, a lot of times we have acrimony within political parties, people have all sort of entitlement mentality. They feel, I've been in this party for over the years. I have donated these, I've contributed these, and so I should be able to, have a place in the sense of, even if it takes taking away what belongs to someone else, I should be the one because I have contributed financially the most and all of that. And so you hear issues of defections, you hear, these factional issues, you hear where sometimes you find legislators, for instance, and maybe the sitting governor or maybe former governor who is not in good terms because of power tussle, the desire to still be in control even when you're out of office, and all of that and all that. Most of the conflicts in political parties is as a result of this. Someone is trying to influence something, and someone is resisting, and all of that. So, what's your take? How do we deal with that?
Well, we have to look at the way the political parties were built, and it's not based on ideology. I keep saying this. People are just cross-carpeting from one party to another in order to contest election. And along the way, some people win and some lost. And those who win, they become so emboldened, and because they have resources, public resources at their disposal, and they can decide who also join them in the winning team, more especially when it comes to political party primary. That's why you can see many legislators at the National Assembly, out of 300 plus, about 170 didn't secure their second term or third term to come into the National Assembly.
Okay.
And this is all has to do with the kind of power the governors have over the party.
Okay, you see, my concern here is the impact on the people. When there's internal democracy, no lack of internal democracy in the party, it affects the outcome of the election. Take Zamfara for instance. The people of Zamfara may have said, oh, we want to vote for the APC. Yeah. That was what they did in 2019. Right? They decided we wanted the APC. Now they voted for the APC. But because of internal problems within the APC, the election, at the end of the day, the court gave it to the candidate of the PDP. Now, if I were a voter in that state, that is not the party I may have wanted to govern me. Yes. But because of internal problems, somebody is imposed or foisted on you because, you know, of all of this. So how do we get to what can be done, because it affects the public at the end of the day?
Yes. The political parties have to know that there's a price to pay. For example, the way Zamfara people felt the price of not having good internal democracy, not respecting going by the rules.
What I'm saying is that at this point, it's no more about the party. It's about the people. Yes, the party may have lost, but the people, they put their trust in a particular party. But because of the problems in that party, they were deprived of that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so they have to assess, should I go for this party again? Because this is not the party that is well organized. I have invested my votes, and later on it was given to another political party. It's PDP. PDP, didn't want the majority votes in that election when Metole came into power. They just got they win at court. And it's as a result of the APC's internal wrangling within the party. They failed to respect the rules of the law. So people at times are always at the receiving ends, because weak internal party democracy, what it does, it presents leaders that are not credible, leaders that are not being elected squarely by people, are leaders that are just being nominated or influenced by the decision of others to come into power. And that's why we are having this problem. If political parties will respect the internal democracy, they will allow the teeming voters of their parties to choose their candidates. And that's the best way to go. When people decided this is our candidate for state assembly or national assembly or senator or governor, let the party allow it to happen. That's the only way we can have credible people, because people can only vote you when they assess you, they assess your credibility, your qualification. But the political parties are always against this kind of processes. And we have laws that clearly stated this is the procedure.
Why does it appear as if the parties don't learn? Because, like, for instance, this cost the APC governorship seat. So why does it look like they don't learn?
Well, it is the party, Nigerian party. It happens a number of times, even for the ones that were enforced by the national structure or state structure of the parties. A number of them, their mandate has been taken away by the courts. They just failed to learn the lessons. And I believe in this election cycle, many of them who follow that process of taking corner to become the candidate presented for election, they are going to lose it once the other opposing people take their case to court, because the electoral law is very clear.
Now, why do you think that people continue to do this, even when they know that this is against the law? Do you think that maybe they feel like they can have their way in the courts, or maybe they feel that there's a problem with the judiciary that they cannot take advantage of, and all of that? And how can we make sure that laws that are in place are fully implemented? You know, it's beyond just having the laws, but following it through to make sure that it works for the people involved.
Yes, it's quite challenging that our courts are part of the problem, because we have politicians that they don't care how to go about winning election. They can do whatever they like. They feel they can win the election. They prefer, it's better for them to be taken to court than to lose elections. And many of them, they are confident when they go to court, they will find their ways. And we are hoping that our judicial system will take up on its responsibility to make sure that anybody who violates the process cannot have their way out from the mess they have created for themselves. They should respect the due process of the law and declare the rightful candidate the winner of any case. And it happens a number of times. We have candidates that they have not done well in terms of the election, or they violated so many areas in the electoral process. Some, in case of vote buying, some they connive with INEC to declare election inconclusive, and when they come to conclude the election, they do whatever they like, and in the end they get their way. But we are hoping that this electoral law will provide a means of improving the processes, if at all we follow them.
All right, well, thank you so much. We'll have to end the discussion at this point. We thank you for joining us on Daybreak today.
Thank you so much.
Our guest has been the Executive Director, Organization for Community and Civic Engagement, Nigeria, Abdulrazak Alikali. He's been the one giving us his perspectives on issues of internal democracy in Nigeria. We'll take a short breather, and then when we come back, we'll take a look at the next discussion on the program. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. Now we're going to the second discussion of the day. And this discussion is centered about media and its sustainability. Now, the International Center for Investigative Reporting is an independent, non-profit media organization that promotes good governance through watchdog journalism. It does this by building investigative stroke data journalism capacity for journalists across newsrooms in Nigeria and beyond. The organization is celebrating its 10th year anniversary, and as part of the occasion, it's hosting a conference on media sustainability. We have joining us in the studio the managing editor of ICIR, Mr. Ajibola Amsat. He's in the studio to give us more on this. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much,
good morning.
Stella. Thank you very much, Yusuf, for inviting us. Thank you.
And congratulations, 10th year anniversary.
Yeah, 10th year. 1 decade gone already.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Well, I mean, you've seen it all. The Nigeria's democracy itself, it's about half of that. I mean, it's like 23 years now of democracy in the Fourth Republic and all of that. How's the journey been for your platform operating within this dispensation?
Yeah, Yusuf, thank you very, very much. As you rightly said, the present republic started in 1999. The ICR, only came on stream about a decade later. We started in 2010. Actually, we got registered in 2010, and we started operation in 2012. So 2 years after. And the experience of the International Center for Investigative Reporting is not different from the experience of many media organizations, like Daily Trust. It has been one of a cat and mouse relationship with the government, because the media will always want to hold the government to account. I mean, Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution gives us that mandate to always hold the government to account. And the people in power, they always try to, cover up those things that they do not want people to do, whereas the media is trying to uncover what the government is trying to cover. So that's, creates some kind of cat and mouse relationship. And it has been like that since 1999. But we're surviving, we're still here.
Okay, I was just thinking, you're talking media sustainability.
Right.
So it was a good thing you're talking about cat and mouse.
Yeah.
You want to hold those in authority to account, but you also need to exist.
Yeah.
So there's always that line. How do you manage that?
So, in fact, it's one of the reasons why we are calling for this conference, because it's very important for all the media chiefs, the entrepreneurs, the practitioners come together to really think about how do you survive in an environment that is trying to report the people who are also supposed to be your patronizers. You need government as your partner. You need the business community as your partner for you to survive as business. But you also need to report these institutions of democracy to the people, because people also need to know what is going on in the government. For instance, the idea of democracy is that it is a people's government. People need to know. So the representative of the people are those ones in government, and whatever they do, they have to report back to the people. So people deserve to know whatever you are doing. And that's the role that the media has been playing, or the media should be playing. But the media also needs to exist. You need to take care of the operating costs. You need to pay for your staff. You need to pay for your infrastructures. You need to pay for every other utilities that you use in order to survive. And you need to go back to the market to go and get this money. So that takes you to those business community you are reporting that corruption is happening under your watch. That goes to the government officials who, from time to time also advertise in your platform. You report about corruption that is going on under their watch. So it's a very tricky situation for the media. So you have to make up your mind. What do you do at this point in time? Whom do you exist for? The media exists for the public, because there shouldn't be a media in the first place if the public is not there. So your first constituency is the public. And that is why we are trying to say that, can we take the business back to the public? That how do we make public pay for quality journalism because the report is for them. So how do you ensure that people pay for what they are reading?
Exactly. Talking about that, talking about people paying for what they read, something very important here is trust. Do you see the Nigerian public as a people that have trust on media, and whether they own or they see it as though the job of the journalist is to them? Do they see it as such? Because I've had to in the course of the job sometimes find myself in the middle, where your job is for in the interest of the public, but you find out that sometimes you're trying to do something in the interest of the public, but the public does not seem to be in your support, and all of that. So have you had such experiences in the course of your dealings?
Yeah, I think there was a recent report. I've forgotten the people who put that report together now, but I was part of the conversation where they were discussing the trust in the media. And I think the rating Nigeria got was pretty low. But it's not only Nigeria, even in the US. I mean, the rate of media trust has even come down, even in the US. I think the only continent that had some kind of very high rating in terms of the media trust, and that was in Europe. So, but the point I'm making is that the question of trust, it's very, very critical at the moment. It is very true, as you put it. The trust that Nigerian people have in the media today has really come down. And you're going to understand this thing better when you realize that before the 1999 return to civil rule, people tend to trust, media much more then, because it was the military government. People were reporting without minding whose horse is God. But the very moment we had democracy, the politicians are smarter. They were able to reach out to different newsrooms and take the best of mind in different newsrooms to be their media managers. And these are the people who spin stories, across all platforms, in TV stations, in newspaper publication houses. You have spin doctors, constructing different stories. And the public are not dumb. They also know that when you are given the kind of information that does not resonate with them, well, we don't hear our voices in the stories that we read. When the faces that we see on the front page of the newspapers are the faces of the ruling elite, day in, day out, they begin to understand that this is not our stories. Because people have stories. Many people have stories. Regardless of your station in the society, you have stories. But if my story is not being reflected in the media, then I begin to ask, where is my story here? And if my story is not here, why should I read this newspaper? Why should I watch this program on TV? The issue being discussed is about issues that concern some other groups. So the question of media trust is very, very important. And I don't think we are addressing it well enough. And that's part of the reason why we are having this conversation. Because we are going to build a very strong media business. We need to be able to get the trust of the people back. Until we do that, we're not in business.
Okay, I know that for ICIR, most of your stories are investigative stories. As a matter of fact, you train journalists on investigative journalism. And at the Daily Trust, we have been beaten several times for carrying certain investigative stories. As a matter of fact, we have advertisers who have had to pull their adverts because we did a story, about their organizations and all of that. How do you manage that?
So we are very lucky, in the last 10 years, because we operated as a non-profit newsroom. In the last 10 years, that's how we've been operating. So what that means is that we don't rely so much on advertisers for our revenue. Most of our funding actually comes from, donors, outside Nigeria, not even Nigeria. So that made it possible for us to do the kind of hard-hitting stories that we did for several years. But now we are also thinking of going into the business. We are trying to set up, a media business, because the donor support is not going to last forever. There is this thing called donors fatigue. Donors also get fatigue. They move on from media to other business. So if you're not funding your newsroom, how do you survive? So we are also thinking about how do we survive? And that takes me back to the question of perhaps the biggest supporters that you need to cultivate are your readers, the public. If you try as much as possible to offer the kind of stories that people will want to read, maybe you can begin to negotiate. But I also understand.
I agree with you that the biggest group that you should cultivate are the people, the readers. However, there are some policies of government that affect media business in Nigeria. For instance, exchange rate.
Yeah.
Look at the newsprints today. They are not manufactured in Nigeria.
Yeah.
They are all imported.
Yeah.
And you know what the exchange rate is.
Yeah.
So we also, whether we like it or not, need the government, because some of their policies actually affect media business, right?
It does. It does. I mean, you're very right. I mean, I was speaking to a senior colleague a couple of days ago, and he was saying that, look, the cost of diesel to power their news organization is about 40 million naira every month. And it's going to get higher because now the news just broke today that there's going to be higher,
pump price
and all that. So that means that we're likely to be buying diesel around 800 to 900, maybe even 1,000.
It's about 850 right now as of today.
So we should be looking at 1,000 very soon. So how does that impact the media business? That is one question. And you raised the question of the print. Yes, I'm also aware that most Nigerian news organizations get their print from Sweden, and you have to even pre-order before you could be able to get it into the country. So all those things can be affected by the government policy. If government is very interested, they can take decisions that can help mitigate them. So I understand that. But the point I'm making is that if you are creating a business, you have to think of the market. And where is your market? The market is the people. So if you're able to get a lot of your money from the people, then you can be in the business. Government will always be government. And in fact, the reason why we are at this point today is because the Nigerian government choose to be the way they are. So you cannot, change much from that perspective, but you can also, change your home business model to make sure that you do business in a way that's going to be profitable to you. And that means taking care of your primary constituency.
All right, well, another fundamental issue that I feel, should be a point of conversation here is finding the balance.
Correct.
For the, media organization. There are times you do a story that is in the interest of the general public, indeed, but again, you are trying to make sure that you represent a true story as it is. But, sometimes people have a certain sentiment. They have a certain bias attached to certain things. And the truth sometimes doesn't necessarily, go down well with members of the public. And sometimes you may even run the risk of being run the risk of being on the side of government, even though that's the reality, of things. So how do you, find the balance, ensuring that people see the truth as it is without feeling that, someone is, being a megaphone for the government or something?
Okay, so Yusuf, I think the way to also understand
my co-anchor is actually Ayuba.
Ayuba, oh, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, Ayuba. Ayuba, you see, the thing is this, we need to first of